Hello everyone! In this class, we're going to unpack the relevance of young Liwei's outer space dream to daily life. First of all, I'm going to talk about it from my own perspective as a Chinese person born after 1990. Then my British colleague David is going to cover mostly the same content, but completely in English. This is going to be fantastic English listening practice, so I suggest you listen several times until you get it all. And now, without any further ado, let's begin the class. 技术和工程在这一次探索中发挥了汗马功劳，但是杨利伟个人的勇气以及坚持也不能忽略。在他的自传中，他详细地介绍了当时自己经历的许多危险时刻。举一个例子，当杨利伟从返回舱出来时，他的嘴角有一丝血迹，这是为什么？因为麦克风的位置有些不正确，所以当飞船返回地面时，一些震动让他面部被麦克风擦伤。尽管杨利伟并没有受到非常严重的伤害，但是这也让杨利伟感到后怕。如果是麦克风划伤了脖子，那么将不会是受皮外伤那么简单，而是会危及到他的生命。事实上，当我们大多数人乘坐飞机、火车或其他交通工具时，每个交通工具都经过了严格测试，从而把风险降到最低。而如果让我们变成测试的一部分，恐怕很多人会胆怯。事实证明，科学家和工程师们在事先都测试了许多因素。在之后的英文部分有这样一段介绍。There were other factors that scientists and engineers calculated in advance, such as the impact of the rocket's acceleration out of orbit, weightlessness in orbit, re-entering the Earth's gravitational pull afterwards on Young's body. 科学家已经事先计算了许多的因素，包括火箭冲出轨道的加速度，在轨道上的失重，以及返回地球时引力对杨利伟身体的影响。这里面有很多航天的术语，大家可以记下来，比如 acceleration 加速度， weightlessness 失重， gravitational 引力的重力的。然而相信这些计算是另一回事。事实上，当杨利伟的宇宙飞船被送入轨道时，他的内脏器官承受了巨大的压力。这一刻的压力只持续了几秒钟，但对于在监控设备上观察的科学家和杨利伟自己来说，这是一个生死攸关的焦虑时刻。没有人能完全肯定他会没事了。在杨利伟成功遨游太空之后，我们的航天事业一路高歌猛进，这其中伴随着一些挫折。在讲述这样的故事的时候，我们往往会把注意力集中在成功的那一刻。在欢庆成功的时候，我们也要铭记这背后所付出的艰辛，这才能让我们真正理解，在实现宏伟目标的道路上，离不开不懈的坚持。坚持意味着能够在挫败和失意的时刻顶住压力，继续前进。
Yang Liwei, as the first Chinese person travelling into space, deserves a place in the history books. However, sometimes, even with famous people, it is easy to forget exactly what it is that makes them great. The famous images we see of Yang show him encased in the space shuttle, and it is tempting to think that he was perhaps simply a man lucky enough to be given the chance to test out some amazing technology. That is to say, it is all too easy to think of the story of spaceflight as nothing more than a story of engineering and technology. Of course, it undoubtedly does have that dimension. However, the personal bravery and persistence of Yang himself should not be overlooked. In his autobiography, he details many of the dangerous situations he found himself in. To take just a minor example, when Yang emerged from his spacecraft, he was actually bleeding around the mouth. Why? Well, because his microphone had been fitted slightly incorrectly. So, as his craft hurtled towards Earth, some of the jolting caused his face to be cut. As it turned out, he didn't sustain any major injuries from it, but it did make Yang think that had some of the cords cut around his neck instead, it could have been really serious, possibly even life-threatening. The fact is that when most of us travel on planes, trains, or other modes of transport, everything has been safety tested down to the last detail. When you are the first person to go out on a new type of transportation technology, you yourself are that safety test. You know that no matter how careful people may have been, there is always going to be the unforeseen circumstance, the position of the microphone being one example. To go where literally no man or woman has gone before requires an extraordinary degree of courage. That, as much as anything else, is why we admire Yang so much. Of course, there were other factors that scientists and engineers calculated in advance, such as the impact of the rocket's acceleration out of orbit, weightlessness in orbit, re-entering the Earth's gravitational pull afterwards on Yang's body. Nevertheless, putting your faith in those calculations is another matter. In fact, Yang's internal organs were put under tremendous pressure as his spacecraft was launched into orbit. This moment of pressure lasted for only a few seconds, but for both the scientists observing on the monitoring equipment below and for Yang himself, it was a moment of incredible anxiety. None could be totally sure that he was going to be okay. Also, when he returned, his legs had been in a weightless condition for so long that he had to be carried initially from the craft. It would take him days of careful readjustment and building up muscle again before he was able to stand or walk normally. Of course, Yang received intense physical and technical training before embarking on this mission. Yet at the same time, we must recognize that he also needed an incredible degree of courage before embarking on a mission like that. The other thing we should not forget when telling a story like this is that we usually often focus our attention on the final moment of success. However, almost invariably, success like that is founded upon failures. The space program in China, which has its origins in the 1970s, included a number of rocket launches that failed. This is also paralleled by similar launch failures in both the Soviet and US space programs. Although we all like to focus our attention on the great successes, it is only by remembering that those successes are often founded on major failures that we can really understand that having great goals and ambitions also depends on having incredible persistence. And persistence ultimately means being able to keep going through setbacks and moments of failure. The space program will continue to have great success, but these will also be accompanied by failure. Getting back to Yang's incredible flight, which happened in 2003, Aaron said that much of his early memories of learning about space and astronauts came from TV documentaries. Aaron was only about 10 when Yang made his famous flight, but he remembers it vividly.
其实像我这么大的人，在我们刚开始对航天产生印象的时候，可能更多是源于好莱坞的电影或者 Discovery 的纪录片。然后那个时候我们就学会了宇航员的英文单词怎么说，叫做 astronaut。astro 是一个词头，指的是太空、航空的意思。比如日本动漫中很经典的太空战士铁臂阿童木，在英文里面的翻译叫做 Astro Boy。而之后以杨利伟为代表的中国航天员，让英文里面出现了一个新的词汇，叫做 Technonaut， 特指我们中国航天员的意思。大家看这个词头，从英文特指太空的 Astro 变成了中文太空发音的拼写 Techo。这其实是一个了不起的事情，代表了国际社会对我们航天成就的认可。就像是当年因为李小龙的巨大影响力，以及他在国际上对于中国武术文化的推广，英文词典里就出现了从中文而来的词汇空腹，功夫。杨利伟最近的一次露面，距离他成功完成遨游太空的任务已经过去17年了。很多人在拥有了巨大成就后，可能会选择丰厚的报酬或安逸的生活，但是杨利伟仍然奋战在航天研究的第一线。我想，国家和社会之所以能够发展，就在于有一些人已经把自己的生活牢牢地跟国家甚至人类的命运拴在了一起。蜘蛛侠的伯父跟他说 ：“With great power comes great responsibility。”力量越大，责任越大。有这种情怀的人，不只是漫威电影里面才会出现的英雄，像杨利伟以及很多人一样，他就出现在我们这个世界，我们这个时代。
However, Aaron told us that what impressed him most about Yang was his attitude after his success. In English, we have a phrase called resting on one's laurels to describe someone who, after achieving great success, starts taking life easily and doesn't aim for further greatness. Yang was not at all like that. He could have had an easy life, but he chose to keep working at the front line of space travel after his successful space flight. He is someone who has decided to devote his life entirely to his country and to higher and greater aims rather than living for himself. This is something that most deeply impressed Aaron about Yang's character.